Is like your position that this is most likely going to zero and that the best thing people can do now is to take out their position right now?
I also try to avoid any like hardcore lines in that. I mean, it's hard for me to not say too much because I really do believe so strongly that this thing is going to zero and that it was all built on a fraud. I feel like the moral thing to do is actually equip people with that information. If they decided to sell it, that's up to them. Yeah, I mean, it sucks. People got screwed over by this terrible investment and now they're stuck holding the bag. Yeah, it's a dicey situation, but in my opinion, unless you believe in the leadership for some reason, and I just don't think there's any evidence for that, I don't think this is going anywhere but down. And that's just my opinion. I think you just have to educate yourself as an investor.
Will justice be served to John Karony, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I'm always hopeful. I'm hopeful and often disappointed is my answer. You're right. It is an unregulated space. There's a chance he gets away with all of it. And, that just is what it is. All I can do is try to let people know so more people don't get hurt.
Do you own any crypto? If you do, what are the names of it?
I think you should not be taking your advice from me. I don't think you should be taking your advice from anyone on twitter.com for where to put your money. I think that is a very not smart way to invest. And, I've publicly said that I hold a small amount of crypto in the top 10 market caps. I never say names because, quite frankly, nobody knows if they're going to be going up or down. Anyone who tells you they do is a liar. I wanted exposure to the market because I just wanted to kind of know what everyone's getting into. I have to know what I'm talking about, right?
Do you understand John's perspective, the SafeMoon perspective on that one versus the ECG and LexVest perspective? Like what they say happened versus what ECG and LexVest say happened regarding the loan and lawsuits?
Yes, I'm very familiar with what John's perspective on things are.
Right. His side of the story is that his mother actually set up a sham loan. And the purpose of that sham loan was to pretty much make sure it had bad terms and it would default within an extremely short period of time. I think 3 weeks or less. This loan was set up by ECG with LexVest Limited. The loan defaulted, and then LexVest Limited supposedly was able to come in and seize property, seize IP, and all that sort of stuff from ECG Group. ECG, of course, being the one that Jennifer Karony set up with John Karony in June of 2021. Do you think it's possible that the loan was not properly done through a proper loan company? Do you think that the possibility that John's mom was trying to actually take property away from ECG, which was held by John? You can say she had every right to not like John, that he did bad things and he made it look bad. But do you think that LexVest Limited was a proper loan company and it provided a proper loan and that the terms were remotely logical, that it was not a sham loan in any way, shape, or form?
Like, I think it was just a private loan with private conditions. But I think from what they say in the lawsuit, they approached John about future financing because he was kind of the main financier up to this point. And from everything in the lawsuit, it sounds like John kept saying, no, I'm not going to invest any more money. No, I'm not going to invest any more money. At which point, the company was basically floundering and they needed money. So whether you think that it was a sham loan or not is going to depend a lot on how desperate they were for finances and how desperate they were trying to get funds anyways. But that just depends on your perspective. I mean, what I'll say is what I've said from the beginning, which is that over time, I think a lot of people have made mistakes who are in the SafeMoon world, right? But when you look at the common denominator that seems to be running across all of these, I think it paints a really clear picture. So I'm not here to say that John's mom is completely innocent or John's dad is completely innocent. I don't know. Because in fact, part of the lawsuit says that where John learned how to hide all these companies is from his parents, because John was playing dumb in the lawsuit about how this company was structured. And his mom's like, no, we taught him how to do this. That's what he literally did with SafeMoon. So we know that some of John's tactics have come from his parents. So I'm not here to say they're perfect princesses or princes either. But what I am saying is that the common denominator throughout all of this has always been John Karony, who cannot get along with others, cannot play nice, always botches deals because he literally is incapable of not trying to get the better end of the deal every single time.
But I believe John was saying she wasn't protecting assets so much as moving assets off away from a company that he started. His terms supposedly were anything created or sent to within ECG should stay within ECG, but she was using these shell companies on the side to actually siphon things off. The Emanations Energy Group started the same day as ECG in June of 2021. Even T&G Systems, after I showed him all this stuff and talked to him about this stuff, his response to me after that was, so it does indeed look like Karony's mom set up the company to push him out. Interesting.
You're basically saying she did something wrong too.
That she is trying to take, whether she feels justified in it because she doesn't like his behavior or whatnot, or that SafeMoon has lawsuits against it and it'll make her look bad, blah, blah, blah. That what she has done is intentionally set up a sham loan. That this is what the lawsuit John sued his mother about.
David B. Smith just texted out, looks can be deceiving. You are missing parts.
Until he's ready to come up and talk, I really don't want to hear anything from David B. Smith.
From what I understood reading both John's side of the thing, and I did understand his side of the thing, I still think that there's more to that story, though, because John also sued them for the house. Like, it'd be one thing if he just sued them for the company, right, to unwind the loan. That's actually not what he did. He sued them for the house, the down payment, too, which we can get into. But read the whole thing about LexVest and all that. I think LexVest's position on it, and I could be misreading it, but I think their position is the reason they defaulted the loan and the reason they first sued Jennifer Karony, because the actual suit starts as Jennifer Karony versus LexVest, is because they had notified John of this. John, at first, their position is that he was cool with it. Then he realized what was happening, and then he goes, okay, no, we have to unwind this loan. But they're like, no, you can't unwind this loan. You haven't been part of this company. You've been refusing to fund it. He goes, no, we are going to unwind this loan, at which point they're like, okay, rather than, because he's threatening to sue everybody in the business. So they're like, all right, let's settle this in court. Let's sue it. Let's sue them. Let's default this loan. So I think that was their position. I could be wrong because there's two sides to this story. But I think what's highly relevant here is, once again, the pattern of behavior. When you sift through all of it, what is salient and what I focused on in my show is what relates to SafeMoon, right? What's actually matters about SafeMoon? Well, we found out that there was $5 million of personal money that John Karony had, right? According to his mother. We also found out that Ronin Real Estate Group was John's personal money, not company money, like all the SafeMoon maxis were saying, right? I think it is relevant, of course, always, to find out both sides of the story. At the same time, when you think about in the context of SafeMoon, what did we actually learn? I don't think it really matters what Jennifer Karony's intentions were. I think it matters what we found out to the average investor.
In theory, if this was actually set up as a legitimate, intentional company to develop this technology, I know you'll laugh at it like always, but then the nanotech, the windmills, the antennas, and the all that sort of stuff. Like, that's supposedly is the purpose of ECG. And then his mother and John got in on that together. Why did they do it as a side project? Well, I don't know. I mean, I know she had connections to Gambia, I suppose, through her CIA position in the past. She had the connections to the government in the Gambia. And I do believe, as far as I can tell, that is true. Her being involved would mean that this tech company, ECG, that did get created in June 2020. That company was created like 3 or 4 weeks after, I think, an AMA first announced Operation Phoenix in Gambia and that kind of stuff. From the beginning, it feels like ECG was created as a means to support SafeMoon in some way or another through the Operation Phoenix, Darkmoon, all that stuff. And it's something that I believe his mother was aware of. It's not like he wasn't talking about Gambia and Darkmoon and all this, or Operation Phoenix, at least in Gambia.
I don't think you can be like that naive to think John would basically do this for his mom this entire time, and then as soon as things go wrong, he blows up her name. Look, just think about it. They run in the same family, right? So if your allegation is John's Karony's mom is basically hiding things in her own name to get an upper hand, it can't be hard to believe that John Karony would hide things in his own name to also get the upper hand. So I guess this is my question. Champion of Sun, I always appreciate your kind of perspective on things because I like that you dive deep in this stuff. So let me ask, because I know you're one of the few people who probably knows as much about SafeMoon as anybody.
Yeah.
Do you think after all these, after literally years of looking at this, do you think on the balance, this has been a fraud? Do you think that John Karony is unfit as a CEO? What is your conclusion from all of this, right? What is your, because you know all this stuff, but what is the conclusion you've come to?
I don't think it's straight up a fraud or anything like that. If we want to get back into the LP stuff and Bitmart a little bit, potentially, is that the USDT collected could have been sent, for the 5% for LP at least, could have been collected and sent to that market making account, which is a liquidity provider for that centralized exchange.
The main point we've learned here today which is actually that we just got proof that this whole sham story about it all being market making fees is obviously a crock, and it always has been a crock.